As a proof of the excellence of the judiciary institutions of the empire, it is well to remark that crimes constantly diminished in number, and that the number of prisoners of state, which was 9,000 on the 18th Brumaire, was reduced to 150 in 1814. The finances of a great state ought, according to the emperor, to provide the means of meeting the exigencies of extraordinary circumstances and even to the vicissitudes of the most obstinate wars, without recourse to the imposition of new taxes, a settlement of which is always difficult. His system consisted in having a large number of taxes which pressed lightly upon the people in ordinary times, and of which the percentage was raised or lowered according to public need by means of additional centimes. It is well known to how many abuses the collection of taxes was subjected before the 18th Brumaire, and the treasury possessed at that epoch only 150,000 francs. The dividends and pensions of the state were paid only in paper, which was at a considerable discount. Payments into the treasury were made in more than 40 different kinds of things. It was impossible to make up a budget. At the commencement of the consulate pit, our terrible adversary thought he saw in the deficiency of money and of credit the near ruin of France. He did not know all the resources within the reach of a skillful and strong government. 1 year, Napoleon sufficed after the 18th Brumaire to regulate the collection of contributions, so that while abolishing all violent processes, he met the expenditures, diminished the taxes, restored a metallic currency, and held 300 millions of francs in securities. Finances founded upon a good system of agriculture never fail. These were the words of the first consul. Facts have proved that he was right. By the order and regularity which he introduced into the administration and into the budgets, he revived credit. He favored the creation of the Bank of France, but while he rendered it independent of the government, he reserved over it a power of control. He required not that it should lend him money, but that it should afford facilities for realizing economically the revenues of the state at convenient times and places. He showed constantly a disposition to come to its assistance in moments of difficulty, notwithstanding the bad spirit and the distrust with which certain governors of the bank are animated. Said he in 1805, "I will, if necessary, stop the pay of my soldiers to sustain the bank." It was his intention to establish branches of this institution in all the great cities of France. He created the officer of Minister of the Treasury, independent of the Minister of Finances. He did not wish an alliance between the bank and the Treasury, because he thought that a simple movement of funds might disclose a secret of state. One of the most important innovations which were introduced into the Treasury was the keeping of accounts by double entry. France ought to rejoice that the system of borrowing, which at this time weighs so heavily upon England, was not put in practice under the empire. Napoleon had settled upon different principles in limiting by a special law the sum total of the public debt to 80 millions francs of annual dividends. Among the ameliorations which ought to be credited to the empire is the law which required receivers generals, notaries, and stockbrokers to give bonds. For a new government, it was essential that the price of public stocks should be maintained in a progressive state of improvement, and the natural consequences of this necessity was a right of police and surveillance over those who, speculating only upon the rise and fall of public stocks, might have an interest to cause them to fall. The enlightened investigations of the emperor advanced so far as to cause the tariff of annuities to be rectified, because not in accordance with the calculation of probabilities. He established the sinking fund and expressed himself thus on that occasion. It is said that a sinking fund should be only a machine for borrowing. That may be true, but the time has not come for France to found her finances upon loans. He created a caisse de service, which was charged with the principal duty of effecting with rapidity the local application and the receipts to the expenditures in the departments. He opened accounts current with the receivers general. It was his intention to create caisses d'activité, the increasing amounts of funds belonging to which would have been consecrated to works of public improvement, there would have been a caisse d'activité of the empire for national works, a caisse of the departments for local works, and a caisse of the communes for municipal works. In 1806, tolls and road taxes were abolished, and a law authorized the levying of a tax upon the entry of goods in all cities in which the civil hospitals had not sufficient revenues. The Council of Liquidation, instituted in 1802, ceased its labors on the 30th of June, 1810. It had liquidated all the debts of the state. That long continuing open wound of the revolution, as Monsieur de Bordeaux expressed it, was at length closed. The emperor estimated that France needed a budget of 800 million francs for a state of war and 600 million francs for a state of peace. The budget under the empire never exceeded the above-mentioned figures, except after the reverse Moscow. Even then, in spite of war, it was 400 million francs less than that with which 24 years of profound peace have burdened France. The emperor did not expend for his own use half his civil list. He employed the excess in forming a reserve fund, or in executing public works, or in assisting manufacturers. In 1814, all his reserves were consecrated to carry on the national war.